Talk to me a little bit about who ultimately makes the decision. Is this something that Vince just tasks you with? Jim, figure out how to protect us here. Or does he come to you and say, God damn, Jim, if we can't solve this problem, we got to eliminate it. Go ahead and tell him to get his shit together and we'll try to bring him back down the line, but that's it. I mean, do you ultimately make the call to let him go, or does Vince do it? And who actually delivers the news to him?
Me. I would deliver the news. Try to do it in person when you can. It's not, it's not a letter. I'll call, talk, you actually had a conversation about it, but Vince would earmark it. And sometimes it was brought up by others in the company, well, this guy's putting our company in jeopardy and he's out of control and he can't control his habits, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you get all these little indications, like I said earlier, that small things start accumulating, and cumulatively it's bad business. And so he would say, we got to fix this problem. And he said, unless you can tell me differently, JR, the only way I know to fix it is to let him go and let him mature. And, cause we'd sure as hell like to bring him back. We knew he was going to be great, but you still can't make exceptions with somebody that you perceive to be out of control and dangerous, especially that big, that strong. And so, we had to, and he understood, look, Eki understood that. He knew he fucked up. And he took the bat out of our hands. What are we going to do now? So that's kind of what that was, Connie. I think that he was, he knew he'd fucked up. It's time you got to pay the piper sometimes. And that's the only recourse that we had.
Knowing you like I do, I know that you wouldn't have just said, Eki, sorry, but this is just something we can't let pass. So we're going to have to let you go and hang up the phone. You would have continued to talk through and tried to end on a positive note where, now here's what you can do to get back, or here's what we'd like to see. Here's how we'd like to approach this in the future with you, or catch you down the road, whatever. We know he's going to bounce around a little bit. He's going to do some stuff with TNA. He's going to do some stuff with All Japan. He's even going to work some New Japan. I mean, he's all over the place, and ultimately he does come back. What sort of words of wisdom do you give to Eki when you're letting him go about, hey, this is not goodbye forever. This is see you later?
Well, it was just that we have to make a change, Eki, and unfortunately it's going to cost you your job. Now, you're going to get plenty of offers to go work, and I'm certainly not going to infer that we don't want you to come back, but we got to see change. You got to get under control, and you got to, this is not a outlaw territory. It's not a bunch of indie dates. This is the real shit here. This is the big time. I said, so it's going to be up the guy you see in the mirror. If you make some changes and get your life under control and take care of your family, which the Samoan people really have always had that mantra, family, family, family. It's really pleasant, quite frankly. So, I gave him hope. You don't want to leave the conversation negative. No yelling and screaming. I've had some yelling and screaming issues with guys over the years, and I just cut the conversation off. We're done. We're not doing anything constructive right now. You're mad at me for something you did that I had to deliver the bad news. That ain't fair to me, and it's not me. You're not being honest with yourself. Eki was not that guy. He was very emotional. He was very upset, but I gave him hope that Eki, you could be a huge star here. You might be the biggest star in the entire Samoan family, because you got skills that nobody else has got. And of course, then Rock came along and that kind of took that spot. But anyway, yeah, we had a good conversation. You always want to leave it better. You appreciate their efforts. You appreciate being on the team. Thanks for all your contributions. But we've got some issues here that we can't address with you on the roster. You got to get better at what you do and how you live your life, how you conduct yourself. And going to a bar or doing this, that, and the other, spending your money in a silly way is not smart for a guy with 2 young kids and a wife. They get it. You just got to be reasonable. And if you yell, something I would do about Vince. I told guys this all the time. I told you don't confront the old man. You converse with him. If you converse, you might get what you need. If you confront, you ain't getting shit.
I like that. Converse, don't confront. Let's talk about Umaga's return. December of '05. Guess what? He's re-signed. He's back with WWE. We have to know how this happened. Had he just done a good job, outside? Was there creative need for a return of 3 minute warning? Because I do believe that was the original plan. I was talking to Armando Estrada getting ready for this show, and he says, when Eddie was rehired in late 2005, the plan was to pair him back with Rosie to reform 3 minute warning. I was flown into Raw in Hershey, PA for a tryout in January of '06. I didn't have a contract and had just started doing the Armando gimmick in OVW. I had no idea what the tryout was for, but I'd heard rumblings they might want me to be a manager. I'd never met Rosie or Jamal up until the moment I entered the pre-tape room with Brooklyn Brawler. I had a few minutes to prepare a promo about how I would lead this tag team to the heights of WWE. I did a couple of promos and felt like I nailed it. Thanked everybody for the opportunity and flew home. And 3 days later, I got a call from Johnny Ace saying Vince wants you on TV as soon as possible. They offered him a contract and he verbally accepted. And the plan was for him to manage Rosie and Jamal, but the office wanted Rosie to come to OVW to work on his conditioning. And he even shot an angle on OVW TV in February '06 saying he had a new surprise coming. Well, eventually he got a call from Michael Hayes saying, you and Jamal are starting the night after Mania and we're putting the rocket up your asses. Be ready to go. So it feels like there's a gear shift here where maybe we wanted 3 minute warning, but when we actually took a look at him, we thought, Rosie probably needs to drop some LBs before he's ready for prime time. What else can we do? How did we create this Umaga character and pivot here?
Well, again, he had proven in meetings and conversations that he'd matured, he'd settled down, and he still had those amazing physical gifts. He had everything that we talked about here. We saw great potential. You just get his head where you want it, or he needs it to be, is what you're looking for. It's all a mental thing at this point, because he had everything you could ever want for a monster heel.
Right.
So I think that's where that was. And I think that, we could see that, of the two guys, of Rosie and Eddie, Eki, that they were, Eki was a star. He was young and big and mobile, believable. Just got to keep him under control and have him make good decisions when he's not in the ring. And even when he's in the ring, don't take any unnecessary chances that might hurt somebody. So that was a situation. It's just, if you saw him in the young Umaga, you just said, God damn, this is, Vince and I talked about that before. I said, God damn, your dad would love this guy, because he had been a great opponent for Bruno. He's one of those monster heels that could give him, Bruno could have got multiple main events out of in the Garden. So back when that's how the formula worked, he's perfect. So it's just a matter, can we get him mentally in the right frame of mind? And that's part of the job of talent relations.
It's pretty remarkable to see that, he does get the opportunity and knowing what he's going to do on the other side. And I think some of our listeners probably didn't even realize that Umaga was part of 3 minute warning. That's how different the characters are. It is more of a return, I guess, to the more traditional Samoan look, but boy, the presentation is going to be different. He debuts on April 3rd, 2006, right after WrestleMania. It's the same name of the final and most painful part of the Samoan tattooing process, meaning the end. I didn't know that until I did a little research on Umaga, but the name meaning the most painful part of the Samoan tattoo, and that it really means the end. Dude, that's pretty cool. Umaga, the end.
Yeah, it worked. All the pieces started coming together. The missing piece was, can we be assured that Umaga is prepared for this opportunity? You're going to be making more money than you ever dreamed you'd make. You're going to be on your own, nobody to tag. And so, it was just, is everything going to be cool? God, hell, that, we think back, and we'll talk about this in a moment. I don't get ahead of ourselves too much, but in 2007 at WrestleMania 23, And I remember that because that's the year that Lawler and I both went in the Hall of Fame with Dusty and Mr. Perfect and the Samoans, ironically. Mr. Fuji, good class, fun class. But you know he was a part of a match that was one of the most I think it was a record-setting WrestleMania number because that's the show that had Trump and McMahon on it, and the battle of the billionaires and the hair versus hair. So he had some memorable moments without a doubt.